Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Jumpstart Your Journey with Beehiiv session. We're going to wait a couple minutes. Lately, it feels like Riverside takes a minute to let us know who's here. So uh, I don't know what the deal with that is, but we're just going to wait for a minute for people to filter in. If you are here, give us a shout out in the chat where you calling in from. It says there's only one person right now. We'll probably see a couple more. Um, Come in just a few minutes. So we'll start to chat a little bit. I hope everyone had a great holiday, whatever you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, whatever it is. I hope it was a good time with family, food, and friends, and appreciation, gratitude. It doesn't look like there's anyone in the chat quite yet. I'm seeing a one in terms of the people here. This is what's happened like the last couple of times where it's like all of a sudden there's just like a bunch of people. Yeah, we got Tammy. Is Tammy our one? Maybe Tammy might be the only one for now. We'll definitely have more. There's more people RSVP'd. So yeah, my producer is telling me we had 60, which means we almost always have like a third. Like it would be weird to only have one. So I think that we just might be waiting for a couple people to get in here, Tammy. But we will get started in just a few minutes as it starts to filter in. A minute past, so um, a couple minutes past, but we'll just give it to 5 past and then we'll get started. Um, Producer, oh, there's Aaron. Okay, so we now have at least two people, but that person's on YouTube. So, but that is still only saying one person is here. So we definitely have more than one person watching right now. So that live little ticker is not correct. See, now we got three. I have a feeling now it's just going to start popping up because that's what usually happens. Yeah. Cool. Aaron, where are you watching in from today on YouTube? Give him a second to respond. Interesting. So he just left Twitter and there were 10 there. And now there's three on YouTube, one still in Riverside. I'm so curious of why this is like. It used to be like clockwork, like it's immediately Riverside would show all those people, and now it takes a little bit of time to show. But we're not seeing the comments, so I think maybe it might take them time. Producer Tony, I'm thinking maybe it also could be we added that step where people like the waiting room, so it could be the waiting room delays people for a second. But that's cool. LA, we got LA, nice. How's the weather out there? It's freezing cold here. It's 29 degrees Fahrenheit where we are. Tony and I are in New York. Texas. Is Texas warm? I know Texas is the reputation is that it's super warm, but like randomly I always see that like sometimes it's super cold. Like my dad's in Florida this week and its high is going to be like in the 40s. A bit cold, yeah. Cool. All right. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna get started here, and we'll see whether those numbers catch up with us. We're just living on the we're living on the edge. So, anybody wants to chat and drop in where they're calling in from, that's great. It's great to have everyone here. We're really excited to be back in the new year, sharing the stuff, all this good information. The purpose of today's session is to really get you acclimated and get you, kind of up and running with Beehiiv. So it's a very interactive, very kind of, comprehensive, what's it called, practical type of webinar today. Really encourage that you have your screen pulled up with your Beehiiv account, that you follow along on the screen, maybe have like side by side, or if you have two windows, one in one window, can really help, basically get everything, get yourself acclimated. But the entire point of today is to really understand all of the different parts of the Beehiiv platform so that you feel comfortable getting up and running. Today's session is going to be recorded, so we'll get those released in the next couple days. I think Tony, if you'd be so kind to drop the link to the past sessions in the chat. If there's anything that we don't cover, there are some past sessions that are going to be very, very similar to this one that you can review if you feel like it. One of the things we're going to do a little bit differently today is I'm not going to go as in depth on all of the different mechanisms of the widget palette. That usually takes up a good amount of time. I'm going to more or less kind of cover that in high level detail and spend more time talking about kind of the functionality of the platform as a whole. And then from there, we will basically cover everything. So the order of operations today, the agenda is to cover the editor, the settings around sending, so that you make sure that when you're ready to send, you're fully aware of kind of how our platform operates, the newsletter and workspace settings themselves, so setting up the name and all of the particular information, custom domains and whatnot. And then from there, that'll get us about halfway through. And then for the second half, we'll go into the specific features that are available from the platform and get you really kind of acclimated there. We're going to be launching an entirely rebuilt version of our web builder within the next 2 weeks or so. And so I will not really be going in depth on how to customize the web portion of the site, but we will talk about like how the web portion of your publication interacts with the email part. But I won't be going into depth on how to like customize that side because we're going to be introducing an entirely brand new experience in the next couple days. So with that, I will share my screen and we'll get started. So from here, you should see a dashboard. Yep, you can see a dashboard. I can see that it's tracking there. So perfect. And actually, I'm just going to drag the studio down to my bottom screen so I can see everyone. Where did it go? There we go. Cool. So this is the dashboard. This probably looks very familiar. Should look just like yours that you're working with. I will recommend that if you have not yet clicked in the bottom corner to start your trial, if you're still working on the free trial or the free version, I highly recommend for this lesson upgrading to your 30-day free trial so that you can interact with all of the features I'm about to go through. It's totally free. There's no credit card needed. You're not going to get auto-charged at the end of it. It's purely just to unlock all of the great paid features that we've built and allow you to experience them. And then at the end of those 30 days, if it's something you want to continue with, we obviously would appreciate that and welcome that. But yeah, sorry, I'm getting my producers in the air real quick. Go ahead, Tony. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, drop me a screenshot. We seem to have discovered the issue with folks. I'm sorry to kind of hold people up. Let's see. I'm going to jump over to Slack in my other screen. Was this a new, maybe they made an update. Oh, interesting. Are we not? Yeah, we're in the studio. We're in the beehiiv studio though. That is peculiar. I did have an issue this morning that when I logged in, none of the settings around like background and stuff were set up properly. I had to reset all those. So maybe we reach out to Riverside after this. Yeah. And anyway, sorry, I'm having a conversation with Tony in the background here. We seem to have figured out why maybe people have had some issues getting in today. It looks like it's on Riverside side. We're going to keep rolling forward, and then we'll have the recording for folks. Sorry for that delay, but we will keep going. So essentially, this is what your dashboard is going to look like. We recommend you start the trial, bottom corner, all good. It'll look slightly different. You'll see if you're starting from scratch, you'll have 0 subscribers here. Checklist on the right side of things to do to get started. Now, before we jump into the actual post, I'm going to show you what we're going to be, what I'm going to be sharing with you today. This is a publication that I've created. This is the website of beehiiv that we've deployed. You can see things like the content tags and how they're visualized here, some featured posts. This is the archive itself of all of the posts. So if I go into this post, for example, you can see this ad opportunity, We have some images. We have this table of contents. We have this section that's visible only to free users rather than paid subscribers, so that those users. Looks Tony. It looks like we had a big bump because now there's 24. Yeah. So this is going to be version for free. Free users only. Paid users wouldn't see this. We'll show you how to do those visibility settings. We've updated some of the design styling so that the links are red. Yeah, sorry guys. Those of you who just got in, we're not sure what happened. We went live right on the dot at noon, and for some reason, our vendor there was some sort of issue with Riverside. There was a couple people here, six. I have no idea what the issue is. I'm very sorry. I'm gonna send them an angry email after this. Um, Stern email. I'm not an angry person. I try not to let these things let me get angry. But I'll send them a very stern email. Maybe we can grab some screenshots, Tony, and we can express our disappointment with the shoddy workmanship of this platform, if that was the issue. But Bill, Belita, Chris, Jivan, really appreciate you guys sticking around those 11 minutes to get in. Corey as well. Who else do we have here? Anybody else? I will give you a shout out and apologize in advance. So yes, I can give a quick recap. We didn't get too far because we were waiting. We figured that there was some sort of issue because we didn't see people joining right away. So you didn't miss a whole lot. Essentially, pulled up the dashboard. If you haven't already started your free trial, highly recommend you clicking down here to start that free trial. No credit card needed, no auto charge. It's just to unlock the features that we're going to go through today. The agenda is going to be the editor, showing you how to get your way around the editor. We're going to show your sending settings, deliverability settings, so that you send to the right audience. We're going to go into the workspace and publication settings, things like the name of your newsletter, how to edit those sorts of things. And then the second half of the session will be about specific features. So all of those paid features, everything that's in this left-hand screen right here. Other than that, I was just thanking everybody for being here. My name is EJ White. I'm the head of growth here at beehiiv. I have a producer in my ear named Tony. He's the eye in the sky. I'm not, talking to the clouds when I break mid-sentence and start, talking to someone else, although that may seem very jarring. I apologize in advance. And we just kind of asked how people found us here today. I'm sorry, where people are calling in from. Obviously, you guys found us because we shared this email with you. But where are people calling in from? We had Texas, we had LA. The weather's great in Texas, about 55 degrees compared to 29 degrees here where I am in New York. I don't know how it is in LA. I assume it's pretty warm. Seems always like it's wonderful in LA. If you guys want to share in the chat where you're calling in from, that would be fantastic. We love to get a little bit of community going on here. And happy to have the 26 of you. And for the folks who were here with us at the beginning, I did say we usually have about a third of the people who subscribe or RSVP show up. And sure enough, I'm seeing a little 26. So 26 out of 60 is about a third. We were spot on with that. And so a little proud of that for my own head math, doing math in my head. Cool. So, perfect. We got the chats popping off. We got Idaho. I know Boise. Do we have Boise, or is there another place? Boise, Idaho. We got Ohio. I'm not normally an Ohio State fan because I went to Maryland, but it's cool to see Big Ten representing in the college football championship. Binghamton, New York, nice. Dubai, love Dubai. Spent 2 years of my early career in Dubai, living in JLT as well as Karama. So shout out Jivan. Brooklyn, I'm over in Bushwick. Dimitri's, that's great. Little neighbor. Got some Utah, Salt Lake City action going on. Maryland. I used to live in Maryland. Used to live in Catonsville, outside of Baltimore. Got Salt Lake City. Love Salt Lake. So cool. Thank you so much. We've spent a little bit of time with these intros, so we'll get started. I'm not going to reference these directly, but it'd be great for Tony and our knowledge to know kind of where are people at in their journey. Are you starting your newsletter from another platform? Are you starting from scratch? Basically like a little message in the chat of like where, what stage you're at starting a newsletter, you're just looking into it or migrating, kind of how many subscribers you have and what are your goals with beehiiv. I think those three, if you do like a 1, 2, 3 and drop those in the chat, that would be fantastic for us to really understand who this audience is. We really like to make these more custom because we do these every week. It'd get really boring if we did just the same exact thing week after week. So drop those in the chat. Tony will look at them. I'll look at them as I'm going through. but it helps to customize like what I should talk about. So um, great. So where you guys jumped in, we were looking at a version of the website. So just to show what we're going to be going through, Beehive kind of is split into two parts. You have the email sending product and you have the web product. These are both connected in that you can post to web and email at the same time. If you're running a newsletter, say something like the Morning Brew, where you're going to post the newsletter to email subscribers, but you still want users to be able to share and read online. That's kind of the ideal use case of having the website and the email side together. Some users use Beehive just like a blog. We have a very, very finely tuned, very optimized site experience. It's almost instantaneous load times, does really, really well with search engines. And so more and more people are starting just pure blogs on Beehive as an alternative to like Webflow or Wix or WordPress. And so in that case, some people may want to post articles to web only and not send via email. Alternatively, there may be times when you only want to send an email. It's specific messages to a specific audience, and you don't want to post to the web. We basically provide flexibility to do all of those different things. Aside from that, we can run premium subscriptions. So if you're running any kind of membership program or you want to run premium content for those users, you can easily do that through Beehive. And so what I wanted to show is essentially what a very, very lightly styled version of our site looks like, as well as a version of a post. So what we're looking at here is a post that I posted a couple months ago. We have the author byline, we have social share links. This was an ad. It was an ad for Beehive that I was able to provision through our ad network. We have the thumbnail image. We have a table of contents. This is a block that I created that's visible only to free and anonymous users. So paying users won't see this. They just see this specific, audio version of the newsletter. We have just regular copy, pictures, styled links. Here's the actual ad widget itself. We drop this in with one click. More images, some columns, just light styling, content breaks. Polls are a really cool part of the platform where you can collect feedback, run trivia quizzes. We have embeds for all of the major social media networks that provide the technology for embeds. And then we have the ability to do comments and keep reading and so forth. So wanted to show this to give you an idea of what we'll be looking at when we go into the editor. So if I come into the actual platform itself, this is where we start up. We're going to go to posts and click start writing. So this will open up a brand new draft. And our approach here at Beehive is that we split the design from the writing process. We find that writing is really, our philosophy is that writing is best done when you can really just focus and do one thing at a time. So rather than a platform where you may be like messing with the styling and like the spacing and all these different things while you're doing the content production, we split those apart. And so through our design options here under the newsletter builder, you will basically be able to design the look and feel of your site and your email. But this view is purely for the content production. And so what we're going to start here with is every post has this header, which is where the title of the newsletter or the post goes. So if it's the newsletter, this is going to automatically be pulled into the subject line. If you're posting to the web, this is the default, header and title and everything, as well as the subtitle. So the subtitle then transfers to the preview text. We'll go into that in a little bit. We have authors you can add yourself by default. And then if there's other authors you're collaborating with, you can add them here for the byline and so forth. But once you start getting writing, the kind of central experience around the writing experience is what I call the palette widget. So by hitting the forward space, you're going to open up this big list of different widgets and items. I'm not going to go into all of these. We've done some of these in the past where I go into all of these into detail, but it just ends up taking a long time and we end up going over time and not having enough time. But we have documentation and explanations around all of these. If anybody has questions specifically about any of these widgets, I'm happy to go into them. But it's really kind of the central experience around the editor. We make it super easy to deploy any of these elements to create really, really robust, engaging experiences with your subscribers. The second part of the actual editor experience, if I write a little bit of text, is this kind of menu or kind of fine-tuning palette. So once you have some copy or some content into your editor and you highlight it, you'll have this menu come up, and the menu itself varies depending on the specific widget. So this is text, and so you have these options. With a column, the menu might be a little bit different, or for an ad, the menu might be a little bit different. But basically, once you have some content, you can access the menu by highlighting, and you can change the text here, or you can view the kind of visibility menu by clicking these 6 dots. So this allows you to edit the visibility settings. You can group content together, which allows you then to kind of edit the styling as a whole. You can duplicate, copy to clipboard, reset the text formatting, etc. So really, really powerful. I would say the one thing to avoid is that some people who are new think that, okay, I come in here, I want to change the font of this article, of this post, and so they highlight everything and they come in here and they change the font here. This would be not advised in that the place to change all of the design is going to happen here in the newsletter builder. So if you're curious of why it's like, oh, I want to change all this stuff, it's really a pain to highlight everything and change it. It's because that menu that I just showed is meant for very like fine tuning stuff that's like going to not be part of your main template, or kind of not, it's going to kind of break the design rules that you've set for yourself. But through the design builder, we have a kind of a mock-up of your newsletter. You come in here, you set all the design once, and then that design then flows through to the actual post itself. So if I go back into this new post, actually we'll go into one of our other ones here. So like this is one that I had drafted. By clicking on a previous draft, I can see what this is supposed to look like. This is going to be the default for email, but if I go into the editor, it'll show me kind of what I've built here already. And then if I go to preview, so say we spent some time reading or writing, we can come here to preview, and we hit the preview button. It's going to show you the web and email versions on desktop and mobile, so you can see exactly what it's going to look like depending on whichever platform your subscriber or reader views it on. And so this is where all of that styling gets merged together. So if we look at the original, very, very simple, no font styling. You can see kind of what we've defined as like headers and whatnot, obviously, but not any of like the specific styling. But then you get to preview and it shows all of that. From there, I want to cover the features in this menu up here. So before we get on to like the sending settings, what we're going to look at is a couple things here. So one, backlinking is a huge part of SEO, and so we have been building out our backlinking capability. So here, if we wanted to add a post where we backlink to another post, we can do these 2 square brackets and then select a previous post. It's going to drop it in here. We can edit the copy, if we want to edit the text, but now it's going to show up in this backlinks column. We're always making additions, so we're building out this feature and functionality to make it kind of give auto suggestions and stuff like that in the future. But for right now, you can use this menu for that. We have really extensive collaboration features. So if you are working as part of a team, we probably have the best collaboration features in the industry, in that you can operate with inside this draft almost identically to Google Docs. So if I'm working with Tony and I wanted to leave him a note, I can come in here and I can either add a comment directly to like the entire post, or I can highlight this text and add this comment and say, say at Tony, if he was a member of this publication, please, I'll just do myself then, because it's, please edit this. So now it's going to show up here on the sidebar. If this was a different person and not myself, I could leave a comment, I can resolve it, I can kind of start a thread conversation about it and so forth. And we can view open, resolved, and other comments through the settings of this filter here. But really, really useful, as well as, if there were multiple people working in this post, you actually can literally see them typing in real time. So it's just like Google Docs, where you're going to see their icon, you're going to see them in the post, you're going to see their text as they type it showing up in the editor. So yeah, just actually was about to jump into version control. I'll look at the question. I don't know if you dropped that in our studio chat, but I can, we'll go through this, and if I don't answer, then you can jump out, Tony. So version control, this next item here is our version history. So say I mean, this is a perfect example. I had a version of this 2 months ago. I don't know if this is any different, but say I have one version and I come back to it, I completely rewrite it, and then I kind of hate the rewrite. I'm like, I just really want to go back to the version it was. We have this version history where you can really easily and quickly jump between different versions. In fact, I find that this actually works way quicker than Google Docs. I don't know if you guys have had the same experience, but I feel like when I try to do this with Google Docs, it takes like 20 minutes to load. So really, really useful for making sure that you're not losing any changes. All you have to do is click the right version and hit restore, and you're good to go. Also great for collaboration. If somebody makes changes that you want to revert or something like that, you can work across different versions that other people have been working on. This button here is to save your current settings and your current work as a template. So say you have a common format for your newsletter and you don't want to write the entire thing from scratch every time you go to write your newsletter. You can basically write it once and then save it as a template. And next time you get started and you go to your template settings, you can choose that to get started from there. So you just click save, select your name, hit save template, and you're good to go. That can be accessed from here if you say use a template. So you click on the right button. If you say use a template, you can see your templates saved right here. You can then modify them, delete them, edit them, etc. from that menu. But in that way, you're good to go. And then lastly, that button takes you to the settings. We already kind of looked at these, but these are the design settings. This is where you set your look and feel. But we already covered that. And we'll get back to that in terms of like what those different buttons do later on. If you have questions about any of this, our knowledge base is always close at hand. If you click this button, it'll take you to our support docs. So you can just type in whatever question or feature that you want to learn more about. And we have extensive documentation that covers all of those features. So now that we've written a post, we're ready to send. And so we're going to hit this next button. It's going to take us to the audience tab. So this is where, as I said before, there's two parts to the newsletter. There's the web part and there's the email part. You can kind of consider these two different products that are combined and linked for good reason. So I think some of the people who join later might not have seen or heard this, but essentially if you think of something like a morning brew where you're sending a newsletter, but you also want people to be able to view it and share it on the web and across socials and whatnot, there's a lot of folks who write newsletters who want a web version to exist. And so that's why we initially built the website. And as we've developed as a company, we realized there's this huge desire for more robust, more full service web functionality. And so that led us to basically creating a CMS or a content management system that rivals WordPress, Webflow, Wix, all of these different types of website builders in terms of the technical capabilities around getting search engine indexed and driving organic traffic, looking really, really good. Some of the best optimized sites in the world. And more often, people are realizing that if you want to run a newsletter, obviously it's great for beehiiv's great for newsletters, but if you also want to run on just a traditional blog, you can run your traditional blog through beehiiv just as easily. And then maybe there's some times when you want to send a specific message to a part of your list. That's where segmentation and sending only to email comes into play. So from this screen, it's right now going to show you that you're going to be publishing to web and email. If we wanted to only publish to email, we would uncheck these web audience selections, and now we're only going to publish to email. Alternatively, if we want to publish only to web, we're going to uncheck these buttons, and now we're only publishing to web. And of course, by selecting both, we're going to publish to all. Now, if we wanted to, for example, send a version of our newsletter to only our paid subscribers, and we wanted that version only accessible on the web to paid subscribers, we could uncheck this free subscribers button. And now either on the web or in email, anonymous users and free users aren't going to be able to view this content without upgrading. Premium users will be able to view it either within their email or once they log in on the web. If we wanted to, for example, send to an audience and either include or exclude specific groups of people from our list, we can use this include and exclude segments feature where we're going to view our different segments and we can either include or exclude them. So in this case, if I wanted to only send to a specific segment, I could select the segment as an included segment, and now I'm only sending to 163 people and everyone on the web. If I wanted to, for example, exclude these people, I would select maybe all of my subscribers, but then exclude this segment. And so it's sending to everyone minus this 167. Do we have any questions about the audience settings here? Sometimes this is a section that people get a little bit caught up on. All right, cool. Tony's saying no questions quite yet. So if there are, drop them there. So because we've chosen both email and web, we're going to be seeing these email settings. This is where I said before at the beginning that the subject line is automatically pulled in from the headline. You can change this. You can keep it the same. If you change it and you want to revert it, you can hit this reset button. Same thing with preview text. If you want to do an A/B test, you can do that here. We have a bunch of documentation about that, but it's fairly simple. Just type in your alternative subject line, set the parameters of the test, and then move on from there. The parameters of the test, this means that it's going to send the first version, or it's going to send both versions at your send time, and then 60 minutes after the test begins, it's going to figure out which one was the winner and then send it to the rest of your list. So in this case, we're saying run a test for 60 minutes, and then once that test is over, we're sending, that test is going to send to 10% of your list, so 14 subscribers. At the end of that 60-minute period, we're going to then send the winning variant to the other 90%. We do ensure statistical significance with these tests. So, we will let you know whether the test reached statistical significance or whether it didn't. If it didn't, whichever one just had the gross higher open rate will be the one that gets sent. And then for here, if you want to turn on these socials and likes and comments buttons, you can do that. Yes, there's tons of them. We have 400 to 500 videos on our YouTube channel, as well as our knowledge base and our product site. So everything here is fully documented. This is just kind of a crash course to kind of get you acclimated. In terms of these likes and socials button right now, they're turned off. So if I go back to that preview and we view the email, there's nothing right here. But for example, if I wanted to show the social share buttons or I wanted to show links and comment buttons, I can check these. And now when I go back to this preview, they're showing up right here. So it's purely an aesthetic decision, but that's what that does. And then because we're also publishing to the web in this case, we have web settings. Here you can choose the slug. If you're an SEO, you can modify this to your heart's desire. You can change the thumbnail. We do have built-in pop-ups, which just, when a user scrolls 50% down the page, pops up asking if they want to subscribe. We also have gating, which means we're not going to let a user read at all unless they subscribe for free. That's what these options are. So if you want to set the pop-up or gate, you can here, or you can set to none. We also have the capability to set this at a publication-wide level, so you don't have to set this every time you publish a post. You can also set the settings of who you want to be able to comment. So you can make it so only paid people can, only, nobody can. Locking just locks them where they are in place, and all just allows anybody to come in and comment. More SEO settings here. So things like the title, description, social descriptions, you can set all of those manually down here. And then for whatever reason, if you have a post that you want to publish to the web, but you don't want it visible on your archive, if you'll recall, this is the archive here. So by default, all of your posts are going to show up in this archive section. If you don't want those to show up there, you can check this tab, and that's going to hide it from the feed. And then if you want to feature it, you can do that, check that button, and it's going to show it as one of these, I think up to 6 featured posts above the whole archive. So from there, we move to the review stage, and so we're good to go. From here, you may want to copy this link and send it to somebody to review your draft. Otherwise, you can also send a test email to yourself, to anybody you might want to, using these functionalities. And then if you want to show what it's going to look like for a specific subscriber, you can simulate a subscriber. So now when you send this email to yourself or to a friend, it's going to appear as if this specific subscriber is receiving that email. So this is useful if you're testing things like the referral program or links that have anything that's got personal information, like a personalized, header, like hi EJ or something like that. Otherwise, it'll just do the fallback because there's no subscriber simulated. So if there's, we typically, sorry if there's some noise in the background. There's some very loud people on the street out here. But typically, like if you have issues, like if you're trying to debug like a link around like a referral program link, we see that usually it's just because you're not simulating as a real subscriber, so they're not actually being replaced with like the real links. Cool, sweet. So from there, if you guys have any questions, we can pause for a second. Chris has a question about test emails. Go ahead and shoot, Chris. Yeah, let me see. So, all right, so just working up the list. Grace had a question about difference between web audience and email audience. So web audience just means anyone. So web audience is like literally anyone. There's kind of three states if you get technical about it. There's anonymous, there's free subscribers, and there's paid subscribers. By default, if someone just comes to your site, they're going to be anonymous. They can log in by hitting the login button in the top corner. If they're a free subscriber, then if there's any kind of personalization, they'll see that personalization. They'll also be able to change their preferences. And if they're a paid subscriber, they then will get access to the paid stuff. So by default, everyone's a web audience. And so the email is like literally if you've just collected their email, but web audience could just be considered everyone in the world. When someone signs up for your email newsletter, they're the only time they would get a notification. I had this question the other day. We do have like the capability to basically provide your subscribers with your own mobile app, which we'll get into that functionality and where to find those settings. But if a user visits your site on mobile and they subscribe, we do have a little pop-up that says, hey, would you like to add this newsletter as an app to your home screen? In that case, if they do that, then when you publish a new post to the web, they will get a push notification telling them that there's been a new post published. It's a little bit more of an advanced thing. So I don't typically cover that in the kind of intro session, but that is something that can be done. In that case, if they have the web app or the app downloaded to their phone, they will also get notifications if they leave something like a comment or whatnot. Cool questions about test emails. So not all HTML is going to work in email. Typically, if that HTML involves any kind of JavaScript, it's not going to work in email. And so there's kind of some advanced ways you can work around that. But generally, email clients don't support JavaScript. And so anything regarding JavaScript is not going to work on email. Sometimes it works on web, but that's not a beehiiv limitation. That's just a limitation of email in general. And so you just have to make sure that the HTML is correct and not relying on any kind of JavaScript in order to visualize. Brian says, when I was setting up my welcome email, I could not see how to personalize with their first name. How do you do that? Okay, so we can jump into that real quick. So when you this kind of combines a couple different features, but if you upload a list with like users' names and whatnot, or if you have a survey, which we'll get into how to set this up, you can collect users' names when they subscribe. You can use the curly brackets and then type in the name of the custom field. It's a feature we'll cover in a minute, but if you have custom field saved, like first name, you can do curly brackets, the name of the custom field, and then a pipe, and then the pipe is going to be to signify the default. So if we say this, and then I go to preview it, I can simulate as, for example, myself. And because I signed up with my own name, it's going to replace it with EJ. So we'll get into what custom fields are, where they're set up, and how to like set them, from users when we get to it. Bob, how do you dynamically insert current date? So we have a custom field for that. Tony, if you wouldn't mind, could you grab the documentation for custom fields and show what users can access by default for Brian? Oh, you're already ahead of the game. And we'll get into whoever starting is, we'll get into how to view the subscriber list as we get to that section of the presentation. Cool. So our next phase, we're going to move into the actual settings of your post. So within the settings, this is the view that you'll see. We have what are called workspace settings and then publication settings. So the workspace settings, if you can imagine your account, there's you as a user. When you create an account, we create a workspace. Within that workspace, you have publications. And so we do it like that because you can have multiple publications within a workspace. And so you're going to have separate settings that are slightly different from each, but just the important part is the workspace settings are kind of like higher level and kind of are inherited by your publications in some cases. So if we go to the workspace settings and go to overview, this is where you can set the workspace name. So for example, I have like a LLC that I used to do freelancing work through. I don't know why I refreshed. Give me one sec. And it was called MDMA Limited. So we have that as the business name, and then this is going to be the global footer address. Don't stalk me. and then all of the publications that are within this account. And so this is just one view. If you want to add team members, we have a bunch of, again, in terms of collaboration, we have a bunch of different settings here. So you can add their email, and then you can choose whether to give them workspace level permissions or restrict them to specific newsletters. And then within there, there's 3 different levels. There's contributor, member, and admin. We explain what each of these are, but if it's somebody who's like a guest writer, you could give them contributor access just to a specific publication. If they're your business partner, you could give them workspace, admin permission. So basically, like, broadly speaking, workspace, these are going to be higher than this, but if you give somebody basically workspace contributor access, they're going to be able to be a contributor to all of your newsletters. Same thing with member access to the workspace. They're going to be members of all of your newsletters. Whereas like the publication level permissions, you have to select the specific publication, and then they're only restricted to that one. Billing and plan, this is where you're going to edit your plan. You're going to upgrade, downgrade, edit billing information. And if you are more tech-minded or developer, this is where you're going to access our API information. So you create an API key by clicking this button, giving it a name, and then we show you the API key. And then for certain integration tools like Make and Zapier, among others, you're going to need an API key or a publication ID, and generally it's going to be version 2. We've deprecated version 1. So you're going to use this publication ID in that API call. So from there, we get into the settings specifically to each newsletter. You come into the general info. You can set your publication name, the description, the logo, the default thumbnail preview. So if you don't set a thumbnail, it's going to default to this. And if you don't set this, it's going to default to just like a gray thumbnail with like the beehiiv logo, which definitely recommend setting a preview thumbnail. Publication tags, this helps us identify what kind of newsletter you're running. This helps with our recommendations engine as well as with our ad network placements. So definitely set these. They're really, really helpful for us to understand what kind of newsletter you're running. Default language, we have a couple language defaults. This will just influence essentially like the kind of content that we automatically generate for you, such as like the text on the login button or something like that. That will be translated into the language that you choose. Of course, within the editor, you can write in whatever language you want. Default time zone, is going to default to wherever you are, but you can change it if you want to change that, and then the default subscriber text. If you do want to create a private publication, say you're running your newsletter for like a PTA or like investor newsletter or something like that, you can turn on this to make it so that the only people who can access your content are people who are logged in subscribers. So anyone else is going to say this is a private publication. If you want it to be a private publication, but you want people to be able to, basically apply to join, you can require subscriber approval, which is going to let people submit their email, but they will only be able to see content if you manually approve them. Lastly, one of the features of our Max plan is you can remove the badge that says like powered by beehiiv, and if you are on the Max plan, you can do that here by toggling this button. If you're a marketer, we automatically deploy UTM parameters to all of the links on the website that are going, pointing towards external links. By default, it's going to be the publication domain, newsletter as the default medium, and then the campaign is a URL-friendly version of the post title. If you want to set your own, like manually set your own defaults, you can do so here. And if you want to turn it off for whatever reason, you can do that right there. When we get to the actual emails themselves, you can set the from address. So this is how it's going to show up to the user in the inbox by changing the sender name. You can change the reply to address to make it whatever you want. So this is going to be when somebody hits the reply button, what comes back and what email do they reply to. This is how you can modify specific footer details. So if you want to change the copyright text or the address. And then down here, you're going to set the default preset emails. So I actually have the welcome emails for this publication set up within automations, which we'll go over in a few minutes. But if you are on the free plan or don't plan on being on a paid plan, you can we give all users the ability to send a free one-step autoresponder when users subscribe, and you can set that here. It's a very similar editor that we just covered. It's going to have the same styling as the website, or the settings that you set in your newsletter, I'm sorry. And you can set like the details around subject line and preview text here. Great. The last thing, Some users, maybe for privacy reasons, maybe for just because you want to keep a cleaner list, will turn on double opt-ins. So this will essentially ask users to confirm that they want to be subscribed to your list by clicking a button. So you can turn it on by checking that, and then you can edit the email that we send to those subscribers here. Some users, usually about 80%, click on that link and choose to actively subscribe. That's normal, but if you want to nudge the people who don't, that last 20%, you can turn on Smart Nudge, and 48 hours after a user subscribes, if they haven't clicked that double opt-in, they're going to receive another email saying, hey, last chance to actively subscribe. If there's any questions about that, I can answer that, but it looks like Tony's been doing a great job with managing the questions in the chat while I've been talking. Cool. For those users who I saw in the chat who are migrating their newsletter from another platform, we actually have, yeah, go ahead, Tony. Sorry, Tony's in my ear. Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to cover double opt-in and that question from Chris. And I do want to say, Mark, this entire thing is recorded, so you'll be able to go back and review this. We also shared videos from past ones in the chat before. Maybe we can change that again. We have a lot to cover in an hour and a half, so it's kind of unfortunately that we kind of have to move through this pretty quickly. It's meant to be more of like this is where you find these settings, and this is where you can dig deeper and explore more if you have like specific needs around these specific things. And so basically, so that you're not kind of flying blind or just like wondering where these things are, you can say, oh, okay, cool. I remember them saying that there's a double opt-in email. Where do I find that? We have our documentation where we can show you where that is. But also, if you're just reviewing, you're like, oh yeah, I remember him talking about that. But yeah, we have the videos recorded that you can review those. They're going to be slightly different because they're always just the variation of me giving these presentations week to week. But you can obviously pause those and go through those at your own pace. Man, one thing about New York, I don't know if you guys can hear the honking, but people love to honk in New York. It's the worst part about New York, in my opinion. Anyway, somebody asked about double opt-in emails. So the purpose of a double opt-in is to keep your list like clean. It's meant to basically, say, okay, somebody submits their email. It's basically the double part means that they're not going to be added to your list until they click the link or the button in the confirmation email to say, hey, yes, I do want to be subscribed. It's a best practice from deliverability experts. One thing is it makes sure that your email got delivered to them. It makes sure that they saw your email. It's a signal to inboxes that this user wants to hear from whoever sent the email because they're clicking on a link inside of it. It basically, there's really, in terms of like the deliverability and the signals that it provides for setting a good foundation for your list, there are no downsides. The reason why people don't always do this is because at the end of the day, it requires a user to click a link and take an action in order to subscribe. And so there is an attrition. Usually I think the industry standard and what we see is about 80% of users who subscribe end up clicking that link. And so the reason why people turn it off or don't use it is because they see, oh, wow, I have like all of these users. I have these 20% of my users who signed up but never confirmed the list or never confirmed their subscription. They see that as a loss or like growing slower than they could. At the end of the day, if they're not clicking on that double opt-in, there's a good chance that they're not that engaged or not that interested in the content and, are not going to be great subscribers to your list. At least that's the logic, that you don't necessarily even want them on your list in the first place. It's such a low bar. If they're not going to open the email and click it, then, do you really want that user? And so it's really a matter of like quality versus like, list growth speed. So if you really want to grow quickly, but you're not as concerned about quality, you might turn it off. And if you really want high quality users, you definitely have it on. Cool. So let's see. All right, so I was on content imports. If you're coming from another platform, one of these here, so Substack, WordPress, MailChimp, or Ghost, we have the ability for you to basically one-click import your content. You're going to follow the instructions on the screen. It's going to connect to those platforms and pull in your content so that you can get started with your archive already in beehiiv. Similarly, if you're coming from another platform and you need to import your subscribers, you can do so here. You're going to export a CSV file from your first platform. We support, this is where you can import custom fields. So if you have like first name, last name, that sort of thing, we have an interface where you can create those custom fields and map them as you import. By default, I think you can import up to 10 subscribers, and this is just like a very small list. It's meant to be kind of like your team or like close emails. If you need more than 10, we have a automatic verification process just to make sure that there's no spammers. We keep that list so that like if there's somebody who is spamming, they can't just sign up with a different account. So if you do need more than 10 imported subscribers, you can go through that verification process. And then we give up to 10,000 subscribers. If you need to import more than 10,000, there is then this request form where we just ask for a little bit of additional information, and then we can easily and quickly support that raising of import limits. If you ever want to export your data, you can do so here. We don't lock anything behind any walls. At any time, you can grab your subscribers and take them wherever you want to go. All purchase information around paid subscriptions is all done in Stripe, and you have to set up your Stripe account. You bring your own Stripe account. So we don't own any of that data. We don't own any of your subscribers. We don't own any of your content or your subscriber list. So we're completely open and portable. And so, yeah, we just want the quality of our platform to be what keeps you here. If you want to set up a custom domain, you can do so in this tab. We now, as of about a month and a half ago, have a really, really cool tool called Entry that automates much of the process for setting up the DNS records that are needed to redirect your domain to a custom domain. So by default, you'll have your website.beehiiv.com, and this is the process you'll go through to set up, if you wanted to, in this case, vacationvoyeur.com. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. We have some really, really great documentation on what these screens look like, how to use Entry. Tony, if you could drop those, that would be great. Again, if you are development minded and you're interested in integrating beehiiv across your tech stack, we integrate with more than 10,000 apps. Webhooks is just one way to do this. The API is the other way. If you're a developer or you're setting this up through a no-code tool like Zapier or Make or one of the other ones, you can basically create webhooks that beehiiv will ping these tools when something happens so that you can trigger different things to happen in other tools, but fully integratable. Some users use beehiiv purely as like a headless newsletter sending platform. So like we just send the newsletter, but they don't have any kind of like web presence. That's totally possible. You can also use this fully backend just to say, okay, cool, we're going to use this to manage our list, send out emails, but we're maybe syncing the list to a CRM or something like that. Once you start using some of our paid features, you will connect your Stripe account. This is where you're going to do your Stripe settings for things like boosts and paid subscriptions. And then lastly, RSS feed. Every account comes with the ability to deploy an RSS feed for your subscribers. On our Max plan, you also have the ability to import RSS feeds to populate your editor with RSS content. So if you're a news aggregator or something like that, you can easily import RSS content into the editor. Perfect. So with the last portion of this overview, we're going to go through the different features on this left side. So I'm going to pause real quick before I move on. But so far we've covered the editor, which is kind of the centerpiece of our platform. We've covered the steps to get from your editor experience from writing your content to sending. We've covered the settings in the account. Oh, before I forget, before we move on to the features, I will click in here. We did cover this really quickly, but if I collapse that menu, essentially this is your newsletter kind of the canvas on which you can design your newsletter. This is going to be basically a mock-up of the settings that are set in this left bar. This is going to be changing to make it a little bit kind of cleaner experience very, very soon. But essentially, this is kind of the experience you go through to set up the design. So for example, if you want to change the footer down here, you would go into these settings and modify the settings of your footer. If you want to change the body content, the text up here, you go into body text and you'd set your font, your line height, your weight, all of this stuff. We have a couple of webinars on design. We also have a ton of tutorials about how to actually do these things, but a lot of different settings. It's mostly like, okay, cool. I have this design from a designer and I want to replicate it in here. Very easy to do that. Or you just say, okay, cool, I don't like the look of my buttons. Okay, cool, I'm going to go over here to the buttons and change the functionality here. The punchline is that with this experience, I can really think of actually in the last 2 years or so, I don't know of any examples in the last 2 years of people who haven't been able to pixel for pixel be able to replicate any design that they've seen anywhere on the web. I've been with beehiiv for almost 3 years, and so in the first year or so, before, as we were still building out the platform, there were like a handful of cases, but this is a very, very powerful design system for creating whatever experience you want. And so if feels like there's something that may be limiting, please don't hesitate to reach out, because I can virtually guarantee that there's a way to make your newsletter look and feel however you want it to look and feel. So let's see, do we have any questions? We have a couple, it looks like. If I set up a custom domain, will automatically assign subdomain from beehiiv forward. Yes, so that's the whole, Steve, that's the whole kind of idea around setting up the custom domain, that when you set up that custom domain, it basically replaces the beehiiv, .beehiiv.com. So if someone goes to that, it's going to automatically forward it to your email, or sorry, not your email. It's going to automatically forward it to that custom domain. And similarly, if they can then just type in the regular domain. Grace, appreciate the kind words. I agree. Super straightforward. Our team has done a really, really great job making it super straightforward to do. Used to be much, much harder and was a little bit of a pain point for some users. Does an author have to be part of the team? I'm on the free tier right now, but I want one of my coworkers to be able to see what I'm working on. So an author does have to be part of the team. So that's contributor is part of that. If you, for example, had a writer, and this is just not strictly what Belita was asking, but if you did have a person who was like a contributor who was not a member of the team, so like say they're writing in a Google Doc, a freelancer or whatever, and you're just copying their content over here, you can add a guest author right here. So guest authors are not going to have any access to the platform. It's just literally going to show the name and photo and maybe I think their Twitter account or X account or whatever social media account. But you go through here and you'd set up that, and basically it's just going to show their face and that link. It's not going to actually create a user for them. But the thing there is that they won't be able to actually have any access to the platform. So it's almost like a ghostwriter, guest author. In order for them to actually be inside the editor experience, they have to be a contributor. The exception is, I think that if you create the draft and you send a draft link, they can see the draft link. That's going to be a visualization of the newsletter. It's not going to be like the editor itself. It's just going to show them what the public version is going to look like. Cool. So moving through this sidebar now with the last time that we have. Somebody asked at the beginning of the call about our subscriber view. So the first thing we're going to see here is the subscriber view. We're just going to, by default, I'm just filtering it just to show this. This is my email. You can see acquisition source, when they subscribed, the tier that they're on, their status. Active means subscribed, inactive means unsubscribed. The third is pending, which means that they have not yet answered the double opt-in. And I have no tags set for this user, which is me. If I click into them, you can see a ton of information around the interaction that they've had with the newsletter. So I can see all of the emails that I've sent, in this case to myself. I can see the overall metrics around open rate, click-through rate, total revenue, etc. The tier that they're on, quick links. You can see acquisition details around where you acquired them and how you acquired them. These are the custom fields, which we'll get into in a second. Any tags that you've set, and so forth. So if I go back to this view, I can set custom fields. So in this case, I'm asking for phone number, dream destination, gender, and first name. But you can create new ones, literally however you want. They're totally flexible right here. Tags are ways to group parts of your list by shared characteristics, whereas a custom field is like a specific characteristic about a specific user. So you can set up tags here. And then if I'm not going to get into the specifics of preference centers, but if you have a newsletter, for example, where you want to, you send daily, but you want to give users the option to kind of scale back and only receive once a week, you can set up this in the preferences tab. You can set up a preference center that allows users to set those options. And then that kind of flows into the custom fields and segments tools. So you can then like send, for example, to only the users who have selected to receive, you could exclude, for example, the users who only want to receive once a week from your daily sends and include them only on the once a week sends in that case. It's a little bit more of an advanced use case. I will let us drop the documentation there, but so Jerry, non-WW has not always been possible, but it's been possible for about the last year and a half or so. So yeah, that's going to be something. There's like the redirect settings there. And I'm sorry if you guys can hear that honking. We're going on like 5 seconds, 10 seconds now. It's the worst. I don't know why people honk. Don't honk if you guys are out there listening. That's my, if I can ask you to do something, just make the world a little bit of a better place and just don't honk at people. But yeah, so in terms of the www.version, there's a section in the domain settings where you can say redirect. And that redirect area is where you can define like, okay, I want the www redirected to the non-www version. Cool. All right, so we got through subscribers. So segments, really powerful way to create sublists from your main master list. So within here, we can go to configure. It's not complicated in terms of conceptual. It's very like, there's an infinite number of ways in which you can segment your list. That we have so many different conditions and tools you can use. So it's really the key to segmentation is understanding who you want to segment for, and then logically thinking like, what characteristics does that user have that can make the segment around. So from these conditions, we have attributes, engagement metrics, information about their emails that they've engaged with, posts that they've engaged with, automations they've engaged with, behavioral data around poll responses, survey responses, and referral counts. It's literally like any interaction they've had with anything from beehiiv you can segment on. In this case, I've chosen the attribute, selected attribute, and then I chose their UTM source from this giant list of attributes and the UTM medium. And so in this case, this is what I tagged my ads with because I wanted to see, okay, what are the metrics of users that subscribed from my Instagram ads? And so by setting up this criteria and creating a segment, I now can see the performance, open rate, click-through rate, et cetera, of the users that came from my Instagram ads. But you can really segment based on any criteria. It's really, really flexible. It's a little bit overwhelming to discuss because like, there's not just one use case. It's literally, you can use it for anything. So if there are specific use cases you have questions about, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we can suggest ways in which you could do that. Here I have a bunch of automation set up. Usually these are ones that I've set up for these different, I should go back and up and clean these for these different webinars. But essentially, if I pop in here, I have this welcome series that I've set up. So automations are based around the concept of triggers and actions. And so when you create your first automation, you're going to select a trigger. Similar to segments, we have like a ton of different triggers. You can really set up literally an infinite number of scenarios using automations. In this case, I've chosen the trigger for signed up. So when a user signs up to the newsletter, they're going to kind of kick off the flow. So in this case, when a user signs up, I'm going to send them this email, which is the welcome email for me. Say I wanted to set up a 5-email welcome series. I could do the first email and then do a time delay. Wait 3 days, wait 1 day, wait 5 days, whatever. And then send another email. Say I wanted to, filter that list and say, okay, have some sort of true false logic. I can do branching. So I can say, okay, send this email to users who meet this criteria. And if they don't meet this criteria, send them down another branch, which may be another email, maybe another kind of message or whatnot. But really, really quite flexible. If I go back one step, I can just show some of the options for our triggers, just to give you an idea, get the juices flowing and creatively. But here we have them for if users signed up. Email submitted, it means that they may already be subscribed, but they're just resubmitting their email. This is great for things like lead magnets where people may already be subscribed to your newsletter, but you're asking them to sign up to receive an asset. When they submit a survey, when they submit a poll response, when they refer somebody, when they join or leave a segment, when they upgrade to a paid plan, when they downgrade from a paid plan, or for all of the other cases where you may be working with other tools across your tech stack, you can trigger any kind of automation with an API call. Let's see, do we have any questions here? None yet. Okay, cool. So from there we have polls. I showed you an example of a poll in some of the test versions, but these are ways that you can collect feedback from your audience. So in the polls interface, you can see what this question was, what the results are, and the emails in which this poll was included. So I include a satisfaction survey in all of the emails that I send, and you can see kind of what the results have been here. The other type of poll we have, so one is a voting poll, the other one is a trivia poll. So in all of my posts, I also have like a bit of trivia. This will tell users, they get the questions and they click on which one they think is the right answer, and it tells them whether they're right or wrong. In this case, which is the longest one, the correct answer is Rev. You can see somebody answered correctly, somebody did not. And this is cool because you can take these results, you can copy them to your clipboard. If you go to something like LinkedIn or X or Blue Sky or wherever you're posting these days, you can just paste that and it's going to give you this like Wordle style visualization. So polls are incredibly valuable in a bunch of different ways. They can help you drive engagement. So when users click on your email, it's going to show inboxes that you are a trustworthy sender, that users want to engage with you, which will help your inbox placement. It gives you feedback, so you can use these to say, what kind of feedback, what kind of content should I write about, and so forth. And that can give you kind of cues on what engages your audience. You can use it for content creation like I've done here. So you can share this and have unique social content that is engaging. And you obviously make users feel like part of the story, which can be really, really helpful for driving that habit of opening your newsletters. Surveys are really powerful in that you can set them. There's a couple different ways in which you can use surveys. So surveys are basically our version of forms. You can come in here once a survey is created. You can set it as a subscribe survey. You can set it as an unsubscribe survey, or you can just copy the URL and share it anywhere. In this case, I use this survey as a subscribe survey, which means when users subscribe and they go through the subscribe flow, which I'll share in a minute, they're going to get this following experience. You're going to have to enter your email. They don't have to enter their email because they're already subscribed, and it's recognizing that I'm a returning user. But essentially, I ask them the name, how they identify, and their dream destination in order to get a little bit of information for things like advertising and personalization. But if you had some sort of survey where you just wanted to give it to social media, it can be useful because you can just put it out there. Users are going to have to give you their email in order to respond. That gains subscribers and it gives you some useful information you could perhaps use for social media content. And then the unsubscribe survey is useful if you want to understand why people may be leaving your publication. The actual survey creation process is as follows. Once the survey is created, in order for the integrity of the actual survey itself, you won't be able to edit it, but you can always duplicate it and edit it that way. So we've created a new survey. We're going to add the first question. You can choose this. You can choose the custom field that it should be associated with or create a new one. And then you'll add the question. It's going to add it to this kind of, looks almost like a very similar experience to automations. And you'll create the survey as you see fit. And then when you're done, you can publish it. To set it as one of those automated surveys, you can do it here or copy it. You can review results here or by viewing the actual subscriber themselves. And also, obviously, you can see the metrics around the response rates here. Yeah, I got a question in my ear. What's going on, Tony? Yeah, so we have a couple different ways. We have some pretty advanced like spam protections in the back end. So when somebody signs up for your newsletter, we obviously do the normal bot detection. So if there's any kind of risk that it's a bot that's submitting the email, we have like it's not a CAPTCHA, but it's something that's like more advanced than a CAPTCHA that from a vendor that we use that they have to complete in order to submit that email. We also only allow users to submit an email once per session. So like if a user is trying to sign up multiple times, which is obviously a red flag, like users have one email. So it's like there's no reason why they would need to sign up multiple times. They won't be able to do that. There's a bunch of stuff that we put in place to protect from that. And depending on the tool you're using, we also have like additional protections. So like with referral programs, we have an additional layer of like, we require a double opt-in for that so that users can't just put in 5 of their emails and, automatically win a prize. It allows you to review those users to say, hey, like, well, one, users can't submit their email 5 times, but if they can't submit, what I'm saying is they can't submit like fake emails. If they put in a fake email, there's a double opt-in process. So the person doing the referring can't game the system that way. Every email that also comes into beehiiv is going to be validated before it gets added to your list to ensure that it is a deliverable email inbox, which precludes like literally fake emails from being entered. So there's a lot that we do. Jesse's asking if there's photos that can be added to the survey options. Unfortunately, not right now, but you can use any of the emojis that are listed there. So from audience stuff, subscribe forms, if you're using a third party, switching gears back to this, if you are using a third party website, if you already have a website that you like, you can collect subscribers directly on that website using our subscribe forms. Usually these builders have a place where you can drop in custom code. You just copy and paste that, and you can start collecting subscribers directly into your beehiiv account. Cool. So under Grow, we have a referral program, allows you to set up rewards and milestones for users to, basically earn by referring your newsletter to other subscribers. We have a ton of documentation about this. I'm not going to go into depth around how this works specifically, but it's, literally you have a widget from the editor. Users who receive your email will have that personalized link. If they share the link, they get credit when somebody comes and subscribes to your newsletter from that link. Recommendations is our way of doing kind of cross promotion organically. So in this case, when users subscribe, which I'll show you the demo in a minute, I recommend a series of other newsletters that they should also subscribe to. I can see the list of those there. One of these actually recommends me back, and so in this case, I've gotten 4 subscribers from this person. I've sent 92 subscribers and 74 subscribers to these publications respectively. These are just organic. These are these are things that I think are just going to provide value to my audience. The paid version of these would be our boosts feature, which we'll touch on at the end. Magic links are a way to do collaborations across platforms. So if you have somebody you're working with who, for example, is on, PostUp, or Constant Contact, you can basically share this link with them, and it creates a one-click subscribe experience for the people receiving their email. I will get into boosts kind of towards the end because it's one of our monetization, our paid features that is not part of the trial. So I like to kind of group those paid features together at the very, very end. We went through design, we went through analyze. Okay, cool. The last thing to touch on here is our subscriber reports. So under this Analyze tab, we have some really powerful, we'll do 30 months. We have some really powerful analytics features that are unrivaled among any other platform out there. Really gives you a deep insight and deep view into where your growth is coming from. In this case, the performance of those subscribers, where they're coming from, where premium subscribers are coming from, referral rates, and so forth. Performance by channel, so you can see where your best subscribers come from. You can double down on that. And then we have some cohort analysis around active users. This is going to be a little bit skewed because I haven't sent lately, but you can see users who, how often and how much you retain users as you send over time. Post report is going to show you performance of your posts. Subscriber report is obviously that performance of subscribers. And then if you're doing anything around like advertising and whatnot, clicks report can be really, really useful because it's going to show you all the performance around the actual button clicks. Before I jump into the paid things, I do want to show one thing. Under this design tab, under the website builder, there's a bunch of settings that are relevant to your website. So we'll go through these real quick. If you're using tracking pixels across major ad networks or analytics tools, under the settings tab here is where you can add those for Facebook, X, TikTok, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, and Google Search Console. If you are an SEO-minded person, you can turn on and off breadcrumbs and indexing for your site under the SEO settings. If you want your social links to be shared on your site, you can add them here. These are those universal email capture settings we talked about at the beginning of the call. This is the sign up flow section. So this is what I was referring to. So I'll show you how this works in a second, but like, let me turn on this subscribe survey. So essentially this is going to be a flow that users go through once they subscribe, so that they're kind of given like a holistic experience from the get-go. So if I come in here and submit this email, I'm going to be subscribed, and then it's going to immediately show the recommendations. This is what recommendations look like. The ones that are sponsored, so these are going to be boosts. They show up first, and they have the sponsored badge. Otherwise, these are the other ones. If I wanted to subscribe to any of these, I could check them, select all, etc. But we're going to say maybe later. So from there, my second step is this survey. So you can enter the survey information, and then go forward. Next, I'm going to offer users the opportunity to subscribe to my premium newsletter, but in this case, I'll skip. And then these are other newsletters that I operate that users may be interested in if they're interested in this travel stuff. So we'll say maybe later. And those all correspond to the different steps here. So recommendations page, welcome survey, upgrade page, multi-pubs, and then I just have the home page as the last step, but you can set any page you want as that like final destination step. Here's where you're going to turn on and off comments for your site, notifications, if you want notifications around the nav bar and on your website. Mobile app, this is where you're going to turn on access so that users can download that mobile app to their phone. Here's some security settings if you're in Europe or under areas where you need extra privacy protections for your users. You can turn those on here. You can also choose to either use magic links or password-based sign-in from right here. Static pages are going to be pages that that are deployed through your newsletter. So in this case, multi-publications is that last step of the program I showed you about. Authors page, you can turn on and off here. And then subscriber preferences, we didn't go in depth into preferences, but we shared the documentation before. If you want to use the recommendations and boosts widget on a third-party site, that's going to be, the instructions are going to be right here. And if you want to reset everything, all of your stuff to defaults, you can go through theme reset. Let's see, we don't have any more questions yet. So I'll go through the last couple monetization features, and then we'll take some questions and we'll get done. So on the grow side, so Boosts is a marketplace. That's kind of the most simple way to describe it. There are people who are basically trying to pay for subscribers, and then there's people on the other side who are basically recommending and getting paid for those recommendations. So a second ago, I showed you those sponsored badges. That's on the monetization side, or what I call the sell side. The buy side is people who are offering money for those subscribers. And so if I go into Grow and I click on Boosts, I can basically create a new offer that's going to go into this marketplace. If I wanted to view the marketplace, and I can show you here, I can go into Explore Offers, and this is going to show you all of the real offers that different newsletters are willing to pay for referred subscribers. So if I go in here and I say I want to look at climate change, and I want to target, not United States. There we go. So these are all of the newsletters in the US that have active boosts right now for the topic of climate change. And so in this case, I can apply to any of these. I can explain why I would want to. You have to explain like why you're a good fit, what your newsletter is about, etc., and submit that application. Then the people who are offering to pay, in this case, $1.05 per subscriber, or up to $1,600 if you sent to a big list and you had, it looks like that's probably about 1,500 people sign up. You could get up to $1,600 for an email send. Yeah, this is basically kind of that process. This is how you apply to that offer. On the other side, you can create that offer by going through this process, type in your target audience, select the type of the verification method. So I buried the lead a little bit there. On the grow side, the reason why this is so powerful and the reason why so many people use this feature is that unlike something like a Facebook marketplace or a Facebook ad platform or TikTok ads or Google ads, where you just pay to show your ads to people and you hope that they're going to convert into users, with Boosts, you only pay if the subscriber who joins your newsletter is active, engaged, opening, reading your newsletter, and engaging with your newsletter. So it's like, and you get to set that cost per subscriber. So it's almost like if you went to Facebook and said, okay, I'm willing to spend $100 and I want to pay for 50 subscribers at $2 a piece. And you could tell Facebook like that's what you want, and you would get that. Right now, if you go to Facebook and you put in $100, you may get one subscriber, you may get five, you could get 100, but there's no guarantee. And if you only get one, you're not getting any kind of refund if that user unsubscribes within like a day, or if they're like not a real subscriber or something like that. With our platform, you basically only pay for active engaged subscribers, and you set that specific CPM. So, or sorry, CPA. So really, really powerful way to grow. Very, we have a bunch of safeguards in terms of quality and ensuring that you're not paying for anybody that's not real. We've put a lot of work into it, and because we have the platform and we have the feature, we're the only tool of this kind on the market that can do this type of in-depth like optimization around engagement. Every other platform on the market or every other tool that it competes with us is sitting on top of a newsletter platform. And so they just fundamentally don't have the level of insight and data that we have. And so we've done tests repeatedly, and by far we have the best engagement metrics and quality metrics across the board. We do have one of our other differentiators on the monetization side is our ad network. So once you upgrade to the paid plan, we have ad opportunities that get dropped in here. So you can basically see once you have an opportunity who the advertiser is. Companies like Netflix, HubSpot, BetterHelp, Masterclass, all of these like, name brand, different companies that will really provide credibility to your newsletter. Once you've run an ad, you can see the reports here, how many opens, clicks, etc. If you are, we do all the reporting, so you don't have to interact with these, different advertisers, but, we do automatic payments, automatic report generation, all done for you. And in 2025, one of the big things we're adding here is the ability, if you do want to run your own ads, we will have basically a very similar interface and process that you can set up your own ads, and we'll be generating the reports and even payouts and invoicing all through beehiiv itself. So look out for that. The very, very last thing is paid subscriptions. So I showed you a preview of that. Within this platform, you can basically set up any kind of paid subscription. You can have multiple tiers. You can have bronze, silver, gold. You can have a one-time payment. You can have donations. Any type of premium subscriptions you want to create can be done with beehiiv. Through our API, through webhooks, you can also integrate across other platforms. So if you do have a premium subscription program that you're running through another tool like Patreon or Memberful, we have virtually every feature that they offer and maybe some additional benefits that they don't, and you can run those through here and sync across any kind of platform that you may be working with. That's done through a fairly straightforward interface here, where you set up the different offers, you set up the different tiers. You can even do offers like a 7-day free trial, a year free, whatnot. You can have paywalls so that like a user can read like 20% of the post and they have to pay to read the rest. All kinds. There's a bunch of stuff, and I think Tony, given the time constraints we're under here, can drop those in the chat. Sorry. I know that was super fast, and we have a bunch of these out there so that you can go and review kind of at your own pace, but I'm hopeful that this was useful in terms of giving a good overview of everything that's possible with the platform. It can be a little bit overwhelming, and so my advice is just get started. If you're very, very brand new to this, the only thing that matters really is just getting started and building a habit and getting your content out there and collecting feedback. So don't necessarily worry about all the bells and whistles too early on. Just get writing. If you are migrating, from another platform, I hope you saw some cool stuff that you want to implement. We have a lot of unique features that aren't offered by other platforms. And so, and they can be really, really powerful for growth and for engagement. So with the last 5 minutes, I'm happy to answer any questions that popped up. Again, I know that was kind of whiplash, very, very quick. We, as you can see, kind of go down to the wire, fitting this all in 90 minutes. But it's my pleasure to have been here today and to help you to be able to provide this information. If you guys didn't show up, you guys are really what makes this all worthwhile, and makes it it's why we show up and do this. So um, happy to sit here for a couple minutes and answer some questions. The last thing I'll say is that one of the other features of our paid plans once the trial is over is our what's it called? Our paid community is called the Hive. So if you give me 1 second, I'll pull that up. If this was useful, the Hive is a community of more than 3,000 active paying beehiiv users. So right now we have 3,286 users who are actively in this community. We have things around like we have AMAs that we do periodically. We have a channel for cross promotion. So if you want to find people to do recommendations with, design feedback, email basics, growth tactics, how to use beehiiv, milestones that you just want to share, some wins, tips around monetization, feedback on your newsletters, and so much more. This is included with the paid subscriptions, and there's basically dozens of messages every day. I read these this morning, and within a couple hours, there's already more messages, in all of these different channels, people asking questions, and so. Highly recommend checking out this once you guys get on the paid plan. There's a lot to be had here, and if this was useful, this is like the place to be in terms of getting that additional or kind of interacting further, taking your connection one step deeper. Cool. So I see some questions in here. We'll answer these before wrapping up. From Grace says she already has a website via WordPress, and I'm using this for your newsletter, but I'm thinking about using the blog function. Can this incorporate with WordPress? So yes. So yeah, absolutely. There's a couple plugins that people have made that will pull the content from your beehiiv account into WordPress. So you can actually publish entirely on beehiiv if you'd like, and those posts can be pushed to WordPress really easily. There's a couple different mechanisms. Some use the API, some use our RSS feature. If you just want to use them separately, if you just want to continue to publish within WordPress and only send from your beehiiv newsletter, like that's also possible. But we definitely integrate with WordPress in a way where you can just do all of your writing and publishing directly within beehiiv, and those posts will get pushed to WordPress. So the Slack, so our Asan, our community is in Slack rather than Discord, but that gets sent to you when you upgrade to a paid plan. It's not part of the trial, unfortunately. But when you upgrade, we send it to you via email as one of those initial onboarding welcome emails that you get. Let's see. Is there an option to hide certain blocks of elements in a post? Absolutely. So I can cover that real quick. I didn't go into depth there, but I did mention visibility things, but I'll go into that in a little bit just so you can see. So right now, for example, this content block is visible to everyone. So Belmont experience beyond the train. So if we go to the preview, this is just all users, free subscribers. We can see Belmont experience beyond the train. So say I want that to only be visible to a certain group. So first of all, I'm actually going to take these two sections and I'm going to create a section. So now anything I do with this section is going to influence both of these pieces of content. So in this case, I'm going to go here, and under visibility, it opens this menu so you can see show on website, show on email. So if I actually don't want to show it in website, I only want to show it on the email, I can do this. And if I do this now, there we go. Come on. This now disappeared from the web version, but if I go in here, it shows up in the email version. So that's one way to do the visibility settings. The other, and there's a bunch here. So there's the other way you can do is you can say only on web, but not in email. And then the third one would be show to different types of users. So show to anonymous users. So this would make it so that only subscribed users can view this on web or in email. If I do this, it's like only paid users are going to see this specific section. If I do this, only free and anonymous users are going to see this. So these can be modified in a couple different ways. So if there's content that you only want premium users to see, you can do this, would kind of be the combination. If it's something like an ad that you don't want premium users to see, you would do kind of this type of action, where these are visible and this one's not. The other interaction is that if you want to only show specific content to users with a certain referral count. So if you say, okay, I want to show this to premium users only, or users who have reached a referral level of having referred five or more, uh, or I guess maybe we do say five or more, so we do more than four um, referrals. This would then show to only users who have gotten 5 referrals or paid users. I hope that answers that. But there's a bunch of stuff you can do that are really cool that basically makes it custom. So you can combine these types of things with the website and email settings as well. So you can say only show to paid subscribers in the email. Don't show to paid subscribers on the web, for example, if you wanted to. Cool. Slack. Thanks. I will upgrade. Perfect. Appreciate you, Asan. It's great to hear. And I can promise you won't regret it. With that, I think we're right at time. Maybe a couple minutes past, 2 minutes past. I thank you for sticking with me, those who have. But really appreciate your time today. I want to give a quick thank you to Tony, who's been answering the questions throughout the call. Up, man in the sky, eyes and ears. He's the best right-hand man. And I also want to thank everybody here who had such great questions. We had such great engagement with this session. Really, really pleased to be able to support all of you. You guys are why we wake up every day. So excited to build this great platform. And we're accountable to you. So if there's any feedback that you have for us, if there's any questions you have or anything you want to see from the platform, please let us know. We're building everything we build for users like you, and you're what make us tick. So thank you so much. Have a great day. This will be online if you want to review this recording in a couple days. Otherwise, you can go back and watch some of the previous ones. Highly recommend checking out our blog for different tips, the product announcements to stay up to date on new features we're releasing. The YouTube channel has like 400 or 500 tutorials, and our support knowledge base has kind of written directions on how to access pretty much every aspect of the platform. So with that, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us on X, on Blue Sky, Twitter, or X and Twitter, the same thing. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. We're on all these platforms at beehiiv, and always happy to engage with subscribers, sharing your wins, answer any questions you have, and can't wait to see what you guys build. Thank you so much, and have a excellent Friday. Have a great, safe weekend. Can't wait to connect with you more. Have a great day. Bye-bye.